Hi there, I'm Sam Stevens. I'm the brand ambassador for Penfolds here in Asia, and today Penfolds live tasting with Esquire magazine, and we've got guys from the Esquire Neighbourhood joining us. I have got Jon Chua and Mae Tan.
What's up?
How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Excellent.
How's everyone doing?
Really excited.
Perfect. So today we're going to be talking about wines and occasions because the festive season is around the corner, and we know there's lots of different wines in the world.
Yep.
There's lots of different occasions, whether we're talking about casual dinner all the way through to a big party. So what we're going to do today was take you guys through 3 different wines and then just have a little bit of a chat about the sort of parties, functions, occasions that we might want to try and match some wines with. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Sounds great.
I can feel the festive season coming already.
Exactly, we're feeling it, I think.
Afternoon drinking's my thing, man.
Yeah. There's never a bad time for a glass of
Exactly.
wine.
No.
So what I thought I'd do is I'd take you guys through the 3 different wines from Penfolds that we've got here, because we've got 1 white and 2 reds, and we'll chat a little bit about the styles of wine and the flavours, what you guys like as well, because the most important thing I always say about wine is it's not what you know, it's what you enjoy. So if you know what you like and you get a chance to taste your way through, that also gives you an idea about what you're going to enjoy when you're choosing a wine for a particular occasion. So any questions you've got, feel free to ask them. But what we'll do now is we'll go through, we're going to start with the white wine on the left-hand side. So this is the Penfolds Bin 311 Chardonnay. So this is a Chardonnay white wine from the cool climate regions in southern Australia. And this should hopefully give us a really nice, fresh, crisp, elegant style of white wine to start off our tasting. But feel free to grab the glass.
So I have a question. Because most of the wine labels are all really hard to read. Not everyone knows how to read them, including me. What exactly does Chardonnay mean?
That's a great question. So Chardonnay is the grape varietal. And what that means is that when we make wine, there are different grape varieties that we make wine out of.
Yeah.
So again, let's think about apples, for example. You've got red apples, green apples, yellow apples. They've all got slightly different flavors to them. They're all apples, but they are different. Exactly the same with grape varieties. So Chardonnay is a white grape, which is why we get white wine coming from it. But it means that the grape variety has actually got different characteristics. Right. So if you had another white wine, for example, a Sauvignon Blanc, it would have a different flavour and aroma to Chardonnay. Right. So really good question, because you're right, labels can be confusing. And that's why, particularly when you're trying to pick a wine for a certain occasion, you want to be confident that you're getting something that you're going to like and you're going to enjoy. So that's why also trying as much wine as you can is always really important, because you'll build up your own repertoire, you build up your own idea of what you like, what your friends like as well, you know, what your partners like. And that's always important because it is personal taste.
Yeah.
Somebody can give you a really, really expensive bottle of wine. If it's not a style you like, you're probably not going to actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it's a great question to try and work out what on the label can tell us what we're going to enjoy.
Yeah.
So this is Chardonnay. This is the grape variety, 100%. And the reason you see me swirling it like this, it's not just to look professional. It's because when we taste wine, what we do is we always smell the wine first. Because your sense of smell and your sense of taste are really closely linked. So it's, again, you know, whenever you're at a restaurant and they bring the dish out and they put it down, most of the time you smell it first before you dive in. We do the same thing with wine. So what we look for here with the Chardonnay is that hopefully you can smell that it's got a little bit like a fruity aroma to it, maybe something like citrus. It sort of smells quite fresh, but it's also got a bit of a smoky, toasty character to it, because this wine has been aged in oak barrels. So that's one thing that you also think about with wine, is that not just what grape variety is, whether it's white or whether it's red, but is there something that was being done during the winemaking to actually give it a different flavour and style. So, of course, the important part is then we go through and taste the wine. Yeah. So feel free to have a sip of the Chardonnay and see.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Chin chin.
Chin chin.
Cheers.
Cheers for joining us.
Citrusy.
Yep. So again, you get that freshness. It's really sort of zingy, and you know, it's not too heavy on the palate. That's what I really love about this wine, is that it is rich, but it's also fresh.
Like, it doesn't leave that aftertaste that like
that burn.
Yeah, and
that
I don't know how do I. It's got like a siap taste.
Like the bitterness.
It's like the bitterness and like that over shadow on the.
Are we allowed to finish it? All right.
Are we supposed to finish?
You can finish, you can sip, you can scull. It's all open slather at the moment.
It's really good.
But what we want to do with this is like that freshness. I think you said it doesn't leave that aftertaste because it's really fresh, really clean, very zesty and very zingy. So that's what we love about white wines is that you can have this freshness, but you can also think about foods that this might match with, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on with the occasion.
So when it comes to white wines like this, does the year matter?
Another great question. It does. So what you'll see on the label here, this has been 311 from 2019. So what that means is all of the grapes were taken off the vines last year in 2019. And when you get some wines are designed to age, and they will change and they will get different flavours as they age. With something like the white wine that we've got here, it's perfectly capable of aging, and you could put it in your cellar for 5 or 10 years. But what would happen is the flavours would go from more of this fresh citrus to maybe a little bit more of like a dried fruit characteristic. So generally I'd say with the white wines like the 311, you want to drink it young, fresh, vibrant like it is at the moment. Whereas you might get some collectors who might want to put it away in the cellar, but they know they like the older taste of wine. So very much, you can also get good vintages and you can get worse vintages because of course it's all about the weather conditions. So yeah, that year can be very important. We're quite lucky at Penfolds in South Australia, particularly recently. The years have all been very, very consistent. Really, really high quality. We've had the right weather conditions that gives us the best grapes to start the winemaking process.
So because the wine is made in Australia, right? And the seasons are different in Australia because winters in June and summers in December. Does that make a huge difference in terms of the production of the wine compared to the wine made in Europe, for example?
So it'll flip it by 6 months. So when we're harvesting our grapes, that's going to be happening in end of summer, early autumn. So you're kind of talking February through to maybe even into May in some of the cooler regions in Australia. Whereas if you then go to the Northern Hemisphere, you're going from kind of July all the way through to September, maybe even October.
So like different times of the year, you should buy wine from different places.
So it depends how long the winemaking process can take. So the thing is, we don't pick the grapes, make the wine, and sell it pretty much in the same year. There's actually quite a long winemaking process. So
I was just about to ask, how long does it take from picking the grapes to then being in the barrel and then to then being in the bottle, like roughly?
So with something like the white wine, the 311 that we're enjoying at the moment, this spent 9 months maturing in the oak barrels. And the fermentation process takes almost a month in itself. So you're actually talking about the grapes coming off the vines in, let's say March, still not getting into bottle until pretty much the end of the year. This probably wasn't actually put into bottle until 2020. Some of the red wines can actually stay in the barrels for up to 3 or 4 years in some places around the world. So actually the distance between picking the grape and actually enjoying the glass of wine can be a really long period.
I like that you use the word grapes a lot because my doctor always advised me to eat more fruits and vegetables.
5 a day.
So I did ask my doctor. So I was like, what kind of fruits can I eat? Apples, pears, grapes. So I'm like, okay. So grapes.
He said grapes?
Yeah, he said grapes.
Okay.
Grapes are one of the funnest fruits.
Like it's a good snack replacement at night.
Have you tried frozen grapes though?
Yes.
Frozen grapes with red wine would be really good.
Ooh, it's almost like sangria, isn't it?
Oh,
That could work.
That could work.
I think we should try that on another one of our live sessions. Right, so what we can do is jump from the white wine now onto the first of the reds. So now with Penfolds, we've got different wines, different ranges. So now we've got our Max's range, and we've got the Penfolds Max's Shiraz in the middle glass.
Shiraz.
So we're now moving from white wine through to red wine. Obviously you can see colour massively different. And now we're talking about Shiraz being the grape variety. So the same as Chardonnay on the white wine, Shiraz is the type of grape.
Okay.
And Shiraz gives us wines that are actually really quite fruity, quite smooth, but they also have a bit of spiciness to them as well.
Yeah, I can smell
I can smell the spicy.
Right?
So you almost get something a bit like peppery, maybe even something a little bit like licorice. But the thing that we love about the Max's range, and particularly with the Shiraz from the Max's range, is it's really smooth, it's really fruity. This for me is a little bit more of a kind of everyday drinking red wine. This is something that I think is probably a little bit more about just pour yourself a glass and enjoy, a bit more maybe a party wine, that kind of element to it. But it's still really rich, smooth, really nice example of Shiraz. So again, feel free to have a taste and see style-wise if this is type of red that you like.
It smells like licorice. It definitely does smell like licorice. I wanted to let the camera smell it.
Well, hopefully the guys at home can all go out and grab themselves a bottle of this and they can
you
drink
guys should
along.
try.
But
So I usually drink red wine when I'm having steak or I'm having like barbecue meat.
Yep.
Like most of the time Japanese barbecue meat or steak. So like I would seldom drink red wine on its own.
Yep.
Yeah. White wine on the other hand, like free fall, but
Yep.
yeah, red wine is one of those things where I never particularly enjoyed it only until probably a year or two ago.
Yep.
Because like you go for like these meetings or dinners, and then if the host orders red wine, you don't want to be rude to say like, I only drink white. You don't want to be that guy. So I was like, okay, I'll just try. And I've actually developed a taste for it.
Nice. Yeah. I think the thing is also, you're right about the styles of wine and the occasion. With food, it's definitely these richer, heavier styles of red would work. The 389 that we'll try in just a moment, that's a really big, powerful red. That would definitely be something that I would recommend more for food.
So this is more like casual drinking.
I'd say this, hopefully you guys would feel it's quite smooth, although it's got that spiciness, it's got that really lovely smooth.
You want to break from your parents, you want to break from your kids, and drink this wine.
This is
I
the
actually
10
quite
minute
like
break.
the cinnamony kind of taste.
Yep.
I don't really like. I didn't think that I would like it, but I can imagine just like having this throughout the night and not eating with it. Because I'm like you, I like to drink red wine when I'm having a meal.
Yeah.
I don't drink white wine naturally because I feel like white wine is normally a bit sour, but this one is not.
Yeah, this one isn't sour.
That's why I'm so curious. Is that how do you pick the right bottle? Which is why I asked what exactly is Chardonnay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, it is about the grape varietal, but also the range. So for us, Penfolds, we produce a lot of different wines, but the Max's range that we're trying now in the middle that you can see here, this is definitely a range that is more about that everyday drinking, that idea of, just pour yourself a glass at home, or you could have it over a night where you're maybe not having a main meal, or you've just got some snacks or something.
Yeah.
That's what we like about this. You can also then go and get yourself a much heavier, much richer style of wine. That's probably more down that traditional food and wine matching. And as we're going to talk about occasions in a moment, of course you need to think about what occasion am I doing? Am I sitting down for a full meal? Am I having something more social, more casual with my friends? I'm going to want a wine that's going to suit those different scenarios.
I'm not going to lie, I'm not very well versed with wine. I've always been more into hard liquor and stuff like that, but I think, I've always been scared of wine because to me the perception of wine was always a little bit more high class, and you have to have a very good understanding of it. You don't want to be the guy that buys a bottle of wine just because it's expensive, and then you give it to a friend and then you realize that you missed out on a lot of things. And personally, I never really wanted to I never felt the appreciation to drink it alone. But I gotta say though, and I'm not saying this just because it's on camera and on shoot and everything, but I would actually drink this at home, alone, hanging out with my dogs, I would do, and my wife, yes.
I think there's almost like a little, because of the spiciness, there's almost a bit of like that hard liquor aftertaste. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
No,
But it's
some
so
of
much
the
simpler
spicy
than making a cocktail, because cocktail you gotta wash stuff. Wine you just gotta wash one glass.
Oh, yeah.
Simple prep, corkscrew, glass, done.
Yeah.
But interesting you talk about, that idea of maybe associating it with spirits and things. A lot of the spirits that you think about, like whiskies and bourbons and rums, they get a lot of their flavour from the oak barrels. And wine is also aged in oak barrels as well. So that cinnamon that you mentioned, that kind of sweeter spice, that definitely comes from the content of the French or the American oak that we age these wines in. So, and that's, you're right, wine can be very challenging. You walk into a wine shop or you walk into a supermarket and there's 100 different labels in front of you. But the questions that you guys have already asked about the varietals and everything, that's how you start to decode it. And you've got to taste, or you've got to go out and do a bit of research, but it's the same with most things. But it's great to hear you say that this is a wine that you could see drinking more by itself. You see the freshness and that, the drinkability of the white wine. That's the thing with it. You've got to try as much as you can, and that's my one bit of advice about wine in general for people is try as much as you can, because the more you taste, the more you get to know your own palate, the more you get to know your own taste, the more confidence you're going to have that you can walk into a situation and either pick a great wine off a wine list or go and buy it from a wine shop. And that's the thing. The more you study, the better you get.
And I also think that people shouldn't be afraid to ask about the wine. Every time I go to a restaurant, I see this all the time where people take the wine menu and they go I don't know, can you just give me something? But instead, what I feel like we should try to do is ask what you like learn something new while you're reading at the menu.
Yep.
And you can find special things like this.
Absolutely.
Oh.
And the thing is, the restaurants, if you tell them what you're eating, or they know what you're eating, you've ordered your dish from them, but that's where the recommendation comes. And you say, hey, I'm going to have a really big, rich steak. Probably I am going to need a big red wine to go with it. Or you can say, I like this style of wine, and maybe they recommend the dish to go with it. So, and that's the thing, when you're talking about different occasions, you've also got to think about what's going to be the mood, what's going to be what
I can imagine this wine having, like, at a meal at, like, if I go to Bird X, like Aussie restaurant, like really good steak and a whole variety of that. Like, I can imagine drinking this with every course.
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, it's all about that matching. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump onto the third wine now, because we're going from one red to another. Now you've got our bin 389. So what we've done is we started with our maxes. Said our maxes is probably a little bit more of a easier drinking, smoother style of wine. This is about sort of $45 retail. Now we're moving up to the bin 311. This is about 110. So we're now stepping up to a much higher level of quality and price. But hopefully what you'll see here is when you smell and taste the wine, it's got a deeper, richer, more powerful aroma to it. It's definitely got that, I think, that spice, that oakiness to it. This wine has had more time in oak barrels than the Maxes did. So again, we're looking at more of that oak-derived character.
I like this.
This is your style, is
This
it?
is my style.
Yeah.
I like heavy and dry.
Yep.
So I feel like this does that. It like doesn't really have too much of a fruity taste. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got the oak here. You say that dry, that tannin, that's what makes it more full-bodied, heavier. So this for me is my tomahawk steak wine. This is the, if I could see myself with a big, rich dish, you're heading out to a meal. We've got Christmas coming up, the idea of these big Christmas meals that we're going to be heading out to, where you're going to have lots of rich food. These are the sorts of wines that would stand up next to it. And that is the whole thing about occasions.
Imagine having this with like Chinese chicha, like a new ubin seafood, you go for crab, you go for mantou, and like something that's heavy, but I feel like something like this would sound it very well.
I don't know, I think people have the perception that like white wine is for like seafood and then reds is for meat. And I get it, I can taste the difference, but I just really like red wine, and I wouldn't mind red wine with frogs, with seafood or crab or something.
And there is no reason you can't do that. So one thing I say to a lot of people when I'm talking about food and wine matching is, traditionally we might have said white wine, seafood, red wine, red meat. But what we're looking at now is actually how strong and powerful is the flavour. We know you've got amazing crab dishes with rich sauce, so much flavour. They're probably going to overpower a white wine. No reason you couldn't go and get a bottle of Max's or a bottle of Bin 389 and sit down and have that with a crab that's got a really nice, powerful, rich sauce. So it's more about what's the level of power in your food, and if you can match that to your wine, then you're definitely on the right length there. So I think what would be great to do, we've tried the three wines, is now let's have a chat about the different occasions, because then we can think about how we can match them up. So scenario number one, you guys are both very social guys, I've already picked that up, you'd love to have a party to socialise. So if you could do a party tonight, anywhere in the world, what sort of party would it be? John, go to you first.
Okay, like in an ideal universe, I would go to Malaysia, to KL, because I have my most fun parties in KL. Mae would attest to that. We've had a party together in KL before, and I just think like the energy there, and I really miss it. I haven't gone back in a couple of months. So if I had to do one tonight, it would be in KL, probably in a place like Kyo or Circa, one of those bars and clubs, and then just have a good night, and then you wrap in Malaysia. You end your party when the sun comes out. So
exactly.
It's one of those nights.
Yes.
And Mae, what would your party scenario be?
So my dream party scenario right now that I wanna get done would be an industrial type kind of party, maybe a theme party, because like who doesn't like a theme party, right? Why not, right? So I am in fashion, so a theme party is I'm always down for it. But I always like kind of like an industrial style, like in a warehouse or like office space, but it's kind of closed off, like underground kind of vibes. that would be ideal party situation now.
And you have to call me.
Yeah, I will definitely call you for sure. I'm pretty sure we have been to those underground parties before together. Yes.
A few times.
So I'm hearing high energy,
Yeah.
stylish, we got themes going on. So if we're sort of talking about wine, maybe not the natural territory for wine, but I think out of what we've had today, I think that something like the Max's
Yes.
is a wine that we know we've served at these kind of really cool parties before. Quite smooth, easy drinking. I've already said price point. This sits at hopefully a little bit more of a pocket-friendly party kind of style.
Yeah.
But Max's is quite new to us. It's stylish.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
meant to stand out from the crowd, and you can see it's got the sleeve and
I
everything on
actually
it.
say
Yeah.
like it's a very festive bottle. Even the taste is
Yes.
festive.
I would drink this for Christmas. No joke.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I would do this for Christmas.
That was the first thing I thought of.
Yeah.
So there's this thing. So we sort of think, if we do events where we know it's not going to be a sit-down formal wine dinner, we love to use Max's. We love to, have this wine that we know people are going to enjoy drinking. It's going to be smooth. It's going to be easy drinking, but it's not taking them straight to that idea of, oh, now I've got to have food with
Right.
it. So that's what I like about the Max's. I think this is a style that, yes, you can have it with food, but you could also have it at one of these parties that I hope I'd get an invite to as well.
Oh, for
But,
sure.
Of course.
You're bringing the wine.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
excellent.
you're
That always
bringing the
helps.
I gotta
So-
say though, so when I drink this and I smell it, it has a certain Christmas vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe it's because it's my fourth glass, but I think, there's something Christmassy about it that I like.
I think it's the oak smell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Like that. Like the oak cinnamonish, like kind
Yeah.
of like warm, pepperish
Yeah.
smell.
Yeah. Well, it's the spiciness, I think. Like, you think about traditional Christmas food, and a lot of it's about spices that people use. They use cinnamon, they use cardamom, they use clove, they use all of these things to cook with, and this is a really spicy style of wine, but still really smooth. I think that's what I really love about the Max's Shiraz, is that it just gives you that smoothness, but so you get that spiciness, you get that oak
I
character
think we
as
have
well.
to change our dream scenario for a party to a like full-on wine party.
Wine
it will
party,
be
yeah.
interesting to see how people behave in a full-out wine party.
Yeah. No hard liquor.
No hard
beer.
liquor, no beer,
Yeah,
just wine.
Yeah.
I've done that before. People are on their best behaviour the whole time.
Right.
I can promise you.
Can I ask
that.
you an honest question,
Yeah.
and pardon my ignorance as well? Like, is it rude to drink wine out of a shot glass?
I honestly
know
would
what
say,
this idea is.
I think it depends on, again, the setting, the ambience. Hey,
Because
we're
she's
in a
talking about a
party
wine
vibe,
party, so
yeah.
I'm thinking in my head, how do we execute it then?
Oh, I was
Right?
thinking just glasses, just like
Yeah.
you know,
I know,
cheers
but glasses,
down.
glasses
like,
is
you know.
fun. Like I know glasses are fun, but like like when you go to a good party, there's always a variety of how you may consume the alcohol, right? It's obviously in these glasses. Some people drink straight from the bottle. Some people
That's you.
drink drink from the shot glasses. So I just because I've never seen wine out of a shot glass before, and when I was in the States, I did see like all those box wine.
Yeah.
Like people sell like disposable box wine, so they drink it and then they toss the glass because sometimes you don't get the opportunity to carry a nice wine glass with you. So yeah, like wine out of a shot glass. Like how would you your personal take on it? Like,
So the one thing I'd say about that, the reason that you generally see wine in traditional style of
it's
wine glass is the smell element to it. But the same thing, you're talking about whiskies and things. If you've got yourself a really nice whiskey, you generally are not going to have it in a shot glass. You'll have it in a tumbler,
Yeah.
whether you have it with ice or with not. You're generally swirling it. You're enjoying that aroma.
Yeah.
Shot glass takes that element away.
Right.
So not saying you can't do it. And again, if we're talking about a party where
Whatever you
we're not
want.
we're not sitting there and thinking
where you
about
can't
the
smell
wine.
anything after 1
Yeah.
hour.
As long as it holds the wine, then I'm sure it would go. I personally
okay.
would probably try and find myself a wine glass, but
Yeah.
hey,
Right.
we're talking about a party in
Yeah.
KL industrial
Yes.
kind of theme style.
There is no rules.
Exactly.
So for the
Yeah.
benefit of the viewers as well, like when is enough? Like how many glasses for an average adult male, for example, like yourself? So for yourself personally, like what is the average number of glasses till you go like, yeah, I've got enough?
So I do a lot of work-based events. So for me, my consumption is quite minimal. So I would say I obviously want to be responsible. I also generally have to host. So the idea of hosting, I need to make sure that I know what I'm saying and that everybody else is knowing what I'm saying. So I would try to keep myself to probably having small tastes of lots of different wines rather than moving through. If I'm in a more relaxed atmosphere with my friends, a lot of it is just more about, what's the vibe, what's the feel. But the thing for me with wine is I find it's something that I do drink at a nice measured rate because I enjoy, I swirl it round, I generally have a bit of a smell and a taste, and it's not putting on airs about it, it's just because that's how I enjoy to drink it. So
I like wine because like to me wine carries this little, how do you say, like this image in my head that you don't really get too drunk and out of control on wine. Like it's still like even if you do it with a bunch of friends, there's this certain level of like it has to be a little bit posh in that sense, to me. Like we'll sit around the table, we would have wine amongst other things, like nuts or something, I don't know, and like at the end of the night, everyone is still composed in that sense, but feeling good. You get that slight little buzz, but a good buzz.
Yeah.
I
think it's sorry.
No, I mean I like wine with that. I think the idea of like I like the whole. I recently learned this to love this thing with the process of like choosing a wine, opening the wine up, decantering the wine, pouring it in a glass, setting up, and like having everyone sit down together and like enjoying it together and like discussing the wine together. It's like actually a very fun process because it's almost like food tasting, but just liquid form, and you get like a slightly tipsy. So it's like plus points everywhere, Okay,
so other question, I mean, I'm just using this to ask as many wine
questions.
Please do,
Let's do it.
So, Chinese people, right? When we go for Chinese dinner, sometimes the older Chinese generation, they like to bring their wine bottle and then they bring that what's it called? The decanter to pour it in. And they like to say this term, we're letting the wine breathe.
Yes.
Is it a thing?
It is, definitely. So, and just to explain it quite simply, I always talk about wine as it's almost like a living, breathing thing itself. So, wine's natural, it's made from grapes. But the other thing that you'll find, particularly when people are using decanters, is they're doing it with older wines. So this is a wine that was, made in 2016, but maybe you're drinking it in 5 years' time. This wine's already 9 years old. Yeah. What happens to the wine in the bottle is the flavours get more complex, but they almost get a bit more compressed. And I think about it as a spring, and it's coiled right up. And if you decant the wine, it helps that spring uncoil, and you can start to pick out all of those different flavours.
So what is a good time for it to decant, like a time span?
So for a full-bodied red wine like the Bin 389 that we've tried, what I would say with that is you're probably looking at about an hour is a good time to decant. Okay. And some wines need a bit longer, sometimes don't need as much, but it's just that idea of the moment you open the wine up and it starts to breathe, it starts to wake up those flavours. Whereas if you just pulled the cork and you poured it straight into a glass, it would still taste pretty similar, but you might not be able to just discover as much of all of those nuances and complex flavours that are in there. So it is definitely a thing. Not all wines need decanting, so something like the Maxes that we've had, the Chardonnay, the Bin 311, I wouldn't say necessarily would need decanting because they're already quite vibrant, quite upfront flavours, whereas definitely as wines get older and they develop more of these savoury flavours, that aeration or that breathing definitely helps bring those to life. Okay, so talking about occasions, I think if we were to think about something different to the party that we had before, Mae, what was the last, I guess, slightly lower key occasion that you might have gone out for, and we can think about a wine to go with that?
Well, recently, just for Halloween, me and my friends had like a last minute Halloween like party where we went as Japanese yakuzas. We had a lot of sashimi, unagi. What would you think? What wine would you think would pair with that?
So straight away, we're now sort of moving to a food setting. So we've gone from this party style. Now, the moment you're talking about going to a restaurant, you're going for an occasion, we're now thinking, hey, we're going to be sitting down, having some food. Now let's think about that food wine matching element here. And that for me would definitely bring out the Bin 311 Chardonnay. So you're talking about sashimi, you're talking about unagi, those beautiful, delicate flavours where we know that so much of that Japanese cuisine is about the quality of that seafood, and you don't want to ride over the top of it with anything too intense. So I think something like this Bin 311 Chardonnay would match absolutely beautifully with that style of cuisine where you're talking about lightness and delicacy and freshness. And again, I think it would be a really fun match to sort of have all of those lovely plates of sushi and sashimi, and you've got these glasses of white wine that are just really clean and fresh and helping to cut through those flavours.
I think I've never thought about it, but I drank sake with the sashimi, but now that I'm trying this wine and I'm thinking of the sashimi, I can see how the zesty thing actually opens up the flavours of the fish, of the raw fish, and it will actually taste more fresh. Yeah.
And that's our Chardonnay grape variety, that crispness, that freshness. And
So
you know,
now you know to open a Chardonnay when you're eating sushi.
absolutely. And John, what was your last, say something more intimate occasion? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been observing all the circuit breaker rules. So the parties that I've been attending, actually the most significant one that I can think of, recently I did a staycation with my wife at Fullerton Bay Hotel. So we got this room with a jacuzzi on the inside. And the good thing about having a jacuzzi in the room is that you could just go into the jacuzzi anytime. And then we popped open a bottle of white wine that was given by the hotel. And I can actually imagine drinking this because it's really fun.
Absolutely.
Like I like it because I like white wine because most of the time it's chill.
Yeah.
And when it's chill, especially if you're sun tanning, if you're sitting in a pool, you want something that kind of counteracts the heat from the sun.
Yep.
So I can just picture myself drinking that while being in the jacuzzi.
Yeah, that idea is bottle of 311 Chardonnay in the ice bucket. You just got these lovely fresh cold glasses of wine. And again, we keep coming back to this word fresh, whether it's with the Japanese food, whether it's on the staycation. It's all about that idea of this fresh, elegant, easy drinking, crisp style of white wine, and that's what the Bin 311 does so well. So again, different occasions in a restaurant, staycation, but again we suddenly now see completely different wine
Cheers
for
to
that.
that.
So 311, cheers.
Cheers.
And now a final occasion. So we are obviously coming into the festive season. So have you guys got Christmas that you're looking forward to? What's the Christmas plans?
I mean, my favorite time of the year is not even my birthday or anything. It is Christmas, because Christmas is the happiest time of the year, and Christmas is where you get good food and good alcohol. So Christmas parties is what I'm looking forward to for the festive period. Yeah.
Yes. Yourself as well?
Yeah, I mean, last year I threw a really good Christmas party. And it's good when the police comes 3 times.
I wasn't invited,
And she will be invited this year.
She probably called the police.
Yeah, but
John didn't invite me. Can you please go to his house?
But for Christmas, as I say, we're talking about people coming together, food, wine. It is about whether it's family, whether it's friends. For me, I go to Bin 389 for Christmas because it's about an occasion. You've built up to something all year round. I said the Bin 389, we're now moving up to what we call our bin range at Penfolds. These are really premium, high quality examples. We've got this beautiful Cabernet Shiraz blend. So this is 2 grape varieties blended together. So we should still get some of that spiciness that you get from the Shiraz, but you'll get a bit more power and a bit more richness from the Cabernet.
I actually love this wine, the taste of it, because it feels like you could have it slow.
Yeah.
Different from the wine, you have it slow and you can have conversations with this.
Yeah.
It's like a conversation wine.
Don't you feel like you want to try this in a cold country?
Yeah.
Right? I'm just imagining it like it's snowing outside.
Roaring fire and you've got a glass of...
Because I have spent Christmas in Sweden once, and for some reason in Sweden they serve warm wine, so they cook it in a pot.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I don't really like it, to be honest. So I would imagine drinking something like this in a nice winter cold country during Christmas.
The thing for me, I sort of think about this is almost the main event itself. So you think about, you can sip it, but over over the dinner table, everyone's gathered around, and this is the Christmas dinner wine. This is the one for me, the 389. Is that you open it up, you do the decanting, you make a bit of a ceremony of it. Yeah. You have your white wine at the start. Maybe you have a couple of other drinks, but then when you all sit down around that table to enjoy that amazing meal, this is the wine that everybody then just gets a glass and goes.
I'm
now,
so excited for Christmas now, by the way, because he's describing like everything I want my Christmas to be, like sitting down with friends and having good alcohol and talking and like.
And Christmas. May is gonna invite me for Christmas.
Yes, I will.
So I mean, Christmas hits for me when I sit down and I do that final kind of everything's done for the day, the food's prepared. Whether you've done your presents or not or anything like that, and this is the glass of wine that I'll pull out for that, because this now means you can relax. This is, as I say, this is Christmas in a glass to me. Bin 389. So these are widely available in Singapore, NTUC, cold storage. Also online as well. Yeah, you'll be able to find pretty much the full range of Penfold wines in most of the places that you would buy good wine in Singapore. But you know, we are really, really delighted with how popular Penfolds is.
Yeah.
in
It is
Singapore.
really good. I think every time I go to a supermarket and try to get a wine, it's honestly so confusing because you barely can read anything on the labels. You don't know what it is about. You don't know the flavor, and the prices range, big range, you know. And now that I know this, I know what to look for. The red one, the red one.
So this is the thing with the Penfolds range. So we've got that sort of $45 maxes, which I think we've agreed really great for those kind of more social party style atmosphere. But then if you're looking for something that maybe you're something fresh to go on a summer's day or a hot day as we get every day here in Singapore, or to go with those lighter styles of food, then you got the bin 311, that's around that $70 mark. And then we've been talking about Christmas, we've been talking about occasion. Doesn't even have to be Christmas, it could be an anniversary, it could be a birthday, it could be a gift for somebody. That's where something like 3A9 comes in, because it's so well regarded, so well known, and I think you can taste in the glass. It's suddenly another step up. And that's what happens when we're looking at occasions. You've got to think, what's the mood of the occasion? Who's coming to the occasion? What's the budget of the occasion?
Yeah.
And you've got to try and find a wine around that. So hopefully today we've been able to have a little bit of a walk through those 3 different wines, and it's given us a bit of a steer on how to choose and what to choose for the next
I gotta
occasion.
say though, big shout out to Esquire and Penfolds for having us. I think Mae and I, we can both agree that we are really enjoying ourselves.
And it's the thing about wine is that I always thought it was very hit and miss. I've always either tasted really good wine or then wine and I'm like, what? It's just $10 wine, $2 wine or something. And I think to know that there is actually you just need to do a bit of research, affordable wine that tastes this good. I mean, we
Shout
need
out
to start
to Esquire and Penfolds.
Esquire and Penfolds, man.
Cheers to that.
Thank you very much for joining us, guys. I think it's been wonderful sharing these wines with you, talking about the great occasions that we have done and will do in the future. But thank you very much for joining us as well for the Penfolds live tasting with Esquire Neighbourhood. It's been great to have you guys. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation, and you'll now go out and enjoy the wines. Cheers. Thank you.